Yes, I'm ready for my change. Yes, I am, your Lord. I'm ready for my change.
Wow. Some years ago, when I was in my 20s, actually, I moved away from my hometown, and I was actually, I think I was in college or actually in school, some up in the ministerial school perhaps, and I went back to visit my mom, and my mom ran a little bookstore in a little town called Conway, Arkansas. And she was a little book exchange, and she would take in books in trade, and then she would resell them. But she really was someone who knew the community, because she had everybody coming in there to read books, and she knew all about all the books and knew what people liked and knew how to help them find what they were looking for. And she had people that would come into her store that would not buy any books but sit there and just talk to her, because my mom was a master listener. I don't know where she got that gift, but she was a master listener. And she shared with me there was a couple that came into the store that she said had been her customers for many years. And she shared with me that they had written an amazing book, and told me I wanted me to read it, and so I did. And I read this book, and I have to say it was amazing and life-changing, and also one of the most challenging books that I ever read. And I cannot even remember the name of it. But I remember the couple, because I got a chance to meet them. They wrote this book, and they wrote the book about an experience that they had and what they learned and how they learned about forgiveness. The book tells the story of how they experienced their 12-year-old daughter being brutally raped and murdered and thrown into the lake. And I have to say that if that were me and that happened in my life and happened in my circumstance, I don't know whether I would be able to forgive. But I was absolutely amazed at the story they told about how and why they learned that they had to forgive the person who did this. And it wasn't so much about forgiving that person for their sake, is that they knew that they would never be able to live a life of grace, of ease, of peace that has been promised to them in Scripture and in all of the ways that we understand spiritual work if they didn't do what they needed to do to heal whatever happened in that circumstance and situation. You see, here's the thing. Forgiveness, and I got this in my meditation recently, but I know I've heard it and read it other places, but ultimately, all forgiveness is really an internal job of forgiving something within ourselves. And that's one of the real lessons I got out of this, is that it was really that they learned that they needed to forgive this other person for the holding them in a situation, circumstance where they saw them as something less than the presence of God. So how do you forgive that which is unforgivable? How do you forgive that which is unforgivable? We're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to explore that thought or that idea of how to forgive that which is unforgivable. I came across a story about a young boy, and he was dragging along and walking with his puppy, and his dog was running next to him, and he had a baseball glove in his hand. He was just kind of dragging the baseball glove along, and he said, "Oh man, I dropped 3 pop-up flies, and I missed that catch on the third." I said, "Oh, I'm the worst baseball player ever." And the puppy's going along going, what are you talking about? You're the best baseball player ever. And the little boy says, well, it just goes to show you that to forgive is canine. That was bad. But here's the thing. You and I are in prison. Do you realize that? We are in prison to our own thoughts and feelings and attitudes and beliefs that are not holding and lifting us up into a greater possibility of who and what we are, what we can be. Our daily word today was just so right on potential. The potential that you and I have is absolutely astounding, absolutely amazing. And it's absolutely amazing not that we are necessarily going to, save the world. And yet at the same time, we're going to be a part of that. We have a part to play in it. And the part we had to play in it is actually doing whatever is needed and necessary to transform what goes on and takes place, not just out here in the world, but what comes up in us about what happens and what we experience out in the world. Louise Hay, one of my great teachers, basically said that the art of forgiveness takes place in our own mind. It really has nothing to do with the other person. Now let's think about that for a moment. We have a tendency to think that in order to forgive someone that hurt us in some way, that it's really about making sure that they don't do that again. See, we have a tendency to confuse forgiveness with reconciliation or with restitution. We think that there has to be some kind of restitution in order to forgive. And I'm going to suggest to you that you're actually holding yourself in prison when you hold yourself to a belief that you have to have some kind of restitution. Because in reality, when you are holding any unforgiveness in your heart, in your mind, and when you are holding out for something in that other person to shift or change, you are making yourself a prisoner to the other person. Because in reality, they may or may not ever recognize or acknowledge that some harm or some hurt has been done. And if you hold out for believing that they have to somehow change in order for you to experience and feel an energy or consciousness of forgiveness, then it's you who are holding yourself in that prison and not them. Now, this is not easy stuff, folks. Don't get me wrong. This is not easy stuff for us to really pay attention to or acknowledge. Anybody here never been hurt? Everyone here has been hurt. We all have experienced the hurt in life. And part of our work in healing whatever hurt we are seeing and experiencing in life is this act, this process, this consciousness of forgiving. Forgiveness is, Gandhi basically said that forgiveness is not for the weak, only the strong can forgive. And so it really takes an inner awareness and an inner strength to be willing and able to shift whatever is happening in us in such a way that we are moving out of the energy and the vibration that is in a real way drawing to us, unfortunately, even more of what we're holding that energy for. Does that make any sense? You see, forgiveness is an energy that we are using to unforgiveness, let's put it this way. Unforgiveness is really holding on to an anger or a frustration or a resentment of something from the past with a mistaken belief that by holding on to it that somehow we're going to be safe from that ever happening again. How well is that working for you? It doesn't. It's just the opposite. It's the very act of holding on to that unforgiveness that actually creates the energy and the vibration that's drawing to us even more of those same kinds of experiences because we're vibrating at that level. We're holding that kind of energy in our consciousness. Now, that's not to say that we can't or we shouldn't ever feel anger. Because in reality, anger is a natural and actually, in some ways, can be a healthy, common emotion. In fact, it's a whole lot better than despair, and it's actually a level up from despair. In fact, when I do counseling with people, if I find somebody in despair, I do what I can to try and make them angry. Because moving into anger actually can help move them into action and help them get them out of that energy of depression and despair. Believe me, I know. I've been in despair, I've been in depression, and it took someone really doing and saying something in such a way that I really got angry that got me out of it so that I was actually taking some action to do something different than just laying there and wallowing in my own self-pity. And the ain't it awfuls. And so anger in and of itself is not a bad thing. There can be a real power in it and a real gift in it in a real sense. But there's a difference between anger and resentment. And here's the difference. The difference is anger is something that happens in the present moment. It's about something that's in the present moment. It's about something that is right now. And the moment that it becomes about something that happened 2 seconds ago, it's no longer anger. It's resentment. And you're holding on to something that happened yesterday or the day before. You see, I don't remember where I saw this or read this, but forgiveness is giving up all hope of a better yesterday. Let me say it again because I want you to hear this on such a deep level. Forgiveness is giving up all hope of a better yesterday. We think that somehow by holding on to the energy of resentment and the anger about something of the past, that somehow it's going to keep us from having that same kind of experience in the future, and it actually does just the opposite. It actually holds us in that energy in such a way that we are continually to repeat the same kind of patterns for the amazing and wonderful loving benefit from the universe of learning how to heal our resentment. And so when we have those same kind of things happening over and over again, when they do it to us again, they are doing it unconsciously perhaps as a gift to help us to heal whatever we have been holding about what has happened to us in other experiences from our past. Bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody have anything that they feel like they're still holding some kind of little bit of grudge or energy or resentment or frustration about from the past? Any of that ever go on in your life? Of course not. These are unity people, right? We always, yeah, right. Let's be honest here, folks.
Let go of everything at the end of the day.
What's it?
Let go of everything at the end of the day.
That's right, at the end of the day. Well, this is what Charles Fillmore called a sure remedy. How many of you would like to experience more health and healing in your life? Charles Fillmore said a sure remedy is at the end of the day, take a moment and think if there's anyone who has anything against you and forgive. And take a moment to think if you have anything that you are holding against someone else and forgive and let it go. It's a sure remedy because it keeps us in the flow of divine love and light and energy. And I would suggest to you, it's one of the main things, unforgiveness, resentment, is the main thing that keeps us from really experiencing our own blessings in life. It keeps us out of the flow of divine love and energy. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, "But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Love your enemies. Wow, that's a big one, isn't it? I think sometimes we think that somehow by holding on to resentment that we are afraid that if someone does something to hurt us, that if we do our forgiveness work, that somehow that's giving them license to do it again. Or we think that somehow that if if we hold on to a resentment, that we won't ever be hurt again. Right? Sound familiar? How well is that working for you? It's not true. It's just one of those false teachings or experiences that we've been given, that somehow that we hold on to a grudge, and people have to pay and suffer for what they have done. And guess what? That's the energy and vibration we're putting out, isn't it? And there's a law in the universe. And the law basically says what you are putting out, what? You're getting it back. We're getting it back. Whether we know it or not, whether we realize it or not, whether we recognize it or not, it may show up in different form, different way. It may show up in a different person. It may show up in a different kind of experience. It may show up in a different county or a different country, for that matter. But it's coming back. And so part of our work in learning about forgiveness and how to forgive that which is unforgivable, that's a big one. That's a big one for me, I know. There are things that I realize that I don't know how to forgive. I've been really working with this amazing work. Some of you, I've talked a little bit about it, from Matt Kahn. Whatever arises, love that. And one of the things I'm really clear on from some amazing work that I learned from another wonderful work, Radical Forgiveness from Colin Tipping, is that ultimately everything that happens in my experience is happening because there is something within my energy and my consciousness that has drawn it to me, and it's drawn it to me for the purpose of helping me to reveal whatever it is that it is in me that's drawn it to me. Are you following me on that? So let me say it a different way. If you spot it, you got it. If it shows up in your life and you have an awareness about it or notice it, or even sometimes if it's just peripherally, it's there because there's something in your energy and your consciousness that has brought it into your awareness and into your experience, not as a punishment, not as something to, something wrong, but as something to help show you where you have an energy or a consciousness that is stuck in some way, that is there to try and heal and lift you into a whole nother possibility and awareness of your good and your potential in life. And it's showing up in your life because there is this amazing benevolent divinity that is in you that is trying to show you that amazing benevolent presence and power that is in you, to show you the gifts that you have. And so in order to transcend whatever is going on out here in the world, we don't transcend it by trying to deny it. We don't transcend it by trying to push it away. We don't transcend it by trying to fight against it or push against it. Jesus said, resist not one who is evil, but do good. And so what he's saying is, don't put out negative energy against negative energy. Put out the good, even toward negative energy. Love your enemy. Wow. Well, who is our enemy? I love the old Pogo cartoon. He's going along and he says, we have met the enemy, and they is us. See, ultimately, everything that goes on in our life and world out here is some reflection of something that's happening in us. Now, one of the things I'm trying to be a little cautious about is that when people hear this, sometimes they immediately move into, they move into self-blame. And I'm going to suggest to you that it's not about self-blame, because reality is self-blame is just part of the problem already anyway. You're already doing that. Stop it. It's not about blame. See, there's a difference between blame and responsibility. Blame is the consciousness of making something wrong, whereas responsibility is a consciousness that says, I have the ability to act and make a difference. Can you see the difference in that? Our world and our media and our everything is all geared toward finding out who's to blame. So they can make them wrong, so they can somehow get what's that? Well, they can sell something, but also it's about a punishment. It's about trying to get some kind of reconciliation or retribution in some form, in some way. See, that's what blame is all about. It's about punishing. How many of you like getting punished? I'm not saying that people don't. I think on some level, some people do. I don't think it serves them or anyone else. But there is a difference between accepting a responsibility for something, which means that I have the energy, the consciousness, the power to choose something different than this, to move in a different direction, to move in a different way, to make a different choice about my own ways of looking at, seeing, and thinking about this circumstance or situation in such a way that I am putting out an energy that I really would like to receive back. As you sow, so shall you reap. Powerful stuff when we really consider it, when we really contemplate the import of this. Now, the title of my lesson is Forgiveness is the Key to the Gate of Heaven. Do you know there was a gate in heaven?
It's pearly.
It's pearly. I've heard it's a pearly gate. What'd you say? St. Peter, that's what I hear, yeah. Well, you know, here's the thing. In unity, we have an understanding that heaven is not some place that you go when you die. You can be in heaven right now. Because heaven is really an awareness and a consciousness and an energy of an awareness of the presence of the divine in this moment, here and now. Of course, hell is not something that a place that you go when you die either. You can have hell right here and right now. And I can tell you a real good way to make sure that you spend a lot of good quality time in hell. For those of you who are interested. Because believe me, I've hung out there a while. And the way that I made sure that I was hanging out in that energy, that feeling, that consciousness, that experience of hell was by holding on to my anger, my frustration, my resentments of the past. And trying to get something or someone to have done something different than what I wanted them to do in the past. So that I could experience something different in the future. And it doesn't work. It's a failed strategy. Marshall Rosenberg calls it a catastrophic strategy for getting our needs met. It's a way that we have to try and protect ourselves. It's a way we have of trying to get the world to be the way we think it's supposed to be. And one of Louise Hay, many years ago, I remember, I got to hear her at Unity Village, and she said, you know, the only reason why we ever are angry with anyone is because they're not being the way that we think that they're supposed to be. And we somehow think that they're supposed to be the way we think they're supposed to be. So the only reason we ever get angry is because the world is not showing up the way we think it's supposed to be. They are not showing up the way we think they're supposed to be. But I got news for you. They never signed up for that. No one ever signed up to be the way you think they're supposed to be. And you know, the reality is, as I said earlier, all forgiveness is ultimately self-forgiveness. In a real sense, the only reason you ever get angry or upset with yourself is because you're not being the way you thought you were supposed to be. Let me say that again, the way you thought you were supposed to be. And so when we are really open to healing and being our true possibility and our true potential, we have to be willing to accept not only ourselves as we saw ourselves and wanted to be and have projected ourselves to be, but we also have to be willing to accept ourselves when we're not being how we thought ourselves to be. Does that make sense? You see, I had a great quote here about that from Marianne Williamson. Let me find that one. That was a great one. Here it is. Until we have seen someone's darkness, we don't really know who they are. And until we have forgiven someone's darkness, we don't really know what love is. We think we love someone, but what we have a tendency to do is love who we think someone is. We love this concept that we have about them. We love this concept that we have created in our mind of who we think they're supposed to be. And when they match that, when they show up in our lives in that way, we say, I love you. And when they don't, we say, get back over here. That's not who you are. How dare you show up in a way that I think you're not supposed to be? Any of this sound familiar? So the real essence of healing and forgiveness work is really learning how to love that part of ourselves that we have difficulty loving. Learning to love that part of ourselves that we have judged, blamed, criticized, wronged. And I'm going to suggest to you, one of the things I'm learning from Matt Kahn is this. We don't know how to love that. You don't know how to forgive that. In fact, most of the time we don't have a clue how to forgive. Because we're thinking that it has to happen from our own level, our own ego personality consciousness. And I can tell you, your ego and your personality has no clue how to really forgive. And it's not until we're open to something higher within us, working through us, and allowing us to experience ourselves and life on a different wavelength, on a different level, in a different energy, a different vibration, and have a willingness to move into something where we are open to being lifted and helped and received in a way that is greater than our own limited thinking and personality, then we're never going to really learn how to forgive. Because forgiveness is not of the personality. It's not of the ego. The ego is very committed to holding on to the energies of fear and of anxiety and resentment and frustration. And any time that we're hanging in those energies, we're not coming from our true nature. We're not coming from the light and the love and the spirit that is within us. Doesn't mean that we can't get angry, but it means that if we're holding on to that anger, that's just the work of our ego consciousness, that it thinks it is protecting us somehow from having that again. And so in order to escape this prison that we have brought ourselves into in some way, we have to, first of all, be willing to acknowledge that we don't know how to do that and ask for help. And we ask for help for something higher. We ask for help from that which is higher than our own personal viewpoint and perception of life and of reality. And so for our meditation today, I'm going to take you through a mantra. So let's go ahead and have some music, and then we're going to move into our meditation time. I'm going to take you through a mantra today that I think will help really move you into a place of being open to the possibility of releasing whatever's in you that is holding you from really experiencing more of the wholeness of your Christ spirit. Let's see. and out, breathing in and out of the heart space. Breathing in and out of that place within us where we are most open and receptive to knowing and feeling and experiencing divine love. And loving those parts and those places within us that we have challenges and difficulty loving. And loving those places within us where we have challenges and difficulty loving others. And so as a part of this meditation, I'll invite you to simply repeat back these statements, this mantra. I don't know how to love the sadness I feel. And just repeat that out loud, if you will. I don't know how to love the sadness I feel. I don't know how to love the fear I sense. I don't know how to love the jealousy I notice. I don't know how to love the pain I'm in. I don't know how to love the judgments I have. I don't know how to love the struggles I face. I don't know how to love the past I remember. I don't know how to love the people who hurt me. I don't know how to love those who ignored me. I don't know how to love those who punished me. I don't know how to love those who abused me. I don't know how to love the resistance I feel. I don't know how to love the doubt that I sense. I don't know how to love the darkness within me. I don't know how to love the things I hate about myself. I don't know how to love what's here to be loved. I don't know how to love those who criticize me. I don't know how to love the one who judges me. I don't know how to love what I may never be willing to love. I don't know how to love the one who can't seem to shift. I don't know how to love the one who doesn't forgive. I don't know how to love the one who doesn't know how to forgive. I don't know how to love the one that refuses to forgive. I don't know how to love the one who always thinks they're right. I don't know how to love the one who always seems victimized. I don't know how to love the one who believes that they're entitled at the expense of others. I don't know how to love the one that is always in need. I don't know how to love the one who is always desperate and lonely and never fulfilled. I don't know how to love the one who's never satisfied and always needs more. I don't know how to love the one who's afraid of having less. I don't know how to love the one who always thinks there's something to earn. I don't know how to love the ones who have denied me. I don't know how to love the one who always feels denied. I don't know how to love the one who always feels unworthy. I don't know how to love the one who chases desire only to push away all that is given. I don't know how to love all that I am. By acknowledging that I don't know how to love, I relinquish each conflict, burden, and hardship by entering the heart of surrender. I don't know how to love all of these, but I'm willing. Let's say that together. I don't know how to love all of these, but I'm willing. I don't know how to love or forgive. I'm asking for help. Together? I don't know how to love or forgive, and I'm asking for help. And just breathe into that and be open and receptive to receiving that energy, that help, that possibility of love and forgiveness. And so it is. Let's take a nice deep breath. Let your awareness be back in this room, this time and place. Gently let your eyes come open.
We at Unity in the Heart of Austin are committed to inspiring people to awaken to their unique divine nature through spiritual teachings, through heart-to-heart connections, through prayer, and through sacred service. And we provide tools, spiritual tools, that allow you to live your best possible life. I'm Reverend Tony Roebuck, minister at Unity in the Heart of Austin, and I truly hope that you are inspired by and that you are transformed by, you enjoy this week's spiritual message. And if you would like to leave a donation, a tithe, to help the work of this ministry in supporting you and others like you, then we are truly grateful for your generosity and for helping to make the world a better place. Because we know that life is meant to be good.